Welcome to Euroanesthesia 2023, Europe's premier congress in anaesthesiology and intensive care. Anaesthesiologists and intensivists from around the globe have convened at Glasgow's Scottish Events Campus Centre to expand their knowledge, explore innovative techniques and learn best practices. This year's programme covers a wide range of topics, from general anaesthesiology to intensive care, critical emergency and pain medicine, and a multifaceted approach to scientific advancements. And you can catch it all here on Euroanesthesia TV. Welcome back to our second show direct from vibrant Glasgow. Whether you're here in person or joining us virtually, I hope you've been fully engaged in the sessions, gaining valuable insights from leaders who are driving transformative change in anaesthesiology and intensive care medicine. We've an exciting content lined up for you today, so let's get right to it. On today's show, we get an overview of the European Diploma of Anaesthesia and Intensive Care and catch top highlights from the revamped exhibition hall. Remember, you can watch Euroanesthesia TV on screens at the Scottish Events Campus Centre, on the Euroanesthesia 2023 website, and of course on our social media. With new content each day of the meeting, make sure to keep watching. First though, we sit down for an interview with this year's Professor Ibsen lecturer, Professor Jean-Louis Vincent. We're now joined by this year's Professor Ibsen lecturer, Professor Jean-Louis Vincent. Jean-Louis, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here. I wonder if you could start by telling us about your lecture, because the title of it is Past, Present and Future of Intensive Care Medicine. What are some of the key topics that you're touching upon?
It was indeed a very broad topic. I love intensive care medicine. There is a lot to say about it. But we started from the very beginning, a little bit of history about how respiratory support could start. And then, of course, I alluded to Professor Ibsen, who developed the first ICU in Europe at time of the polio epidemics in the early 1950s. And so from there have been a number of technological developments and improvement in processes. So we have gone a long way since today, and a lot to say about the future and the importance of further developments in technology.
And we'll talk about the future in just a moment, but maybe first I could just touch upon the last 3 years, because of course that's been a transformative period with COVID for intensivists and for the medical field as a whole. What lessons have been learned from that period?
I summarized it in a paper where we alluded to the 4 Ps of preparation, progress, personalization and prioritization. And clearly we will need to have more beds that could be open as ICU beds. We call them silent ICU beds. We could make more progress in the development of new medication. Personalization is important. The question is not, is it ARDS, as we call it, or not? It's personalized therapy, and prioritization raises a number of ethical issues. Who could come to the ICU? Who could be mechanically ventilated? Who could go on extracorporeal support, ECMO? And so these are different elements. But of course, at the end of the pandemics, we can be very proud of what we have achieved.
So moving forward then, what do you think the future holds for critical care medicine?
Oh, it's amazing. So with artificial intelligence in the future, we will be helped by computerized systems that will really help to recognize the right patient for the right intervention. So that's really very exciting. And I also alluded to treatments that could be somewhat automated, like fluid administration with closed loops. You give fluids, you see how the patient responds. If the patient seems to benefit, you give more fluids.
So you mentioned a lot of technical elements there, the AI and other technical elements. What other advances, maybe in clinical research or in physician training or medical practices, do we need to take place to support that endeavour?
I'm very pleased that you raised that point, because people tend to think in terms of technology when you speak about ICU, about new respirators, new machines, new monitoring devices. But it's not just machines. We need to have the right people working there and the right support. The machines will not replace us. That's very important. We should not think at AI as something that will replace human beings. No, it should be controlled, because it will really help. So the training should include it.
And just to finish, just taking it back to the theme of your presentation, past, present and future, the speed of change over that period, how is that pace going through kind of the life?
Clearly, the pace has changed over the years. Initially, it went rather slowly, and we made relatively little progress, although it was primarily through the organ support, the respirators, the cardiovascular drugs, the defibrillators, etc., that we make progress. And then over time, it started to go faster in terms of how to personalize our approach. That is really changing very, very fast. Yeah.
And you feel optimistic for that?
Oh yeah, oh definitely. Let's meet again in 2 years from now. The world will be totally different and much better.
Well, I will certainly look forward to that, Jean-Louis. Until then, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
The Examinations Committee is responsible for supervising, coordinating and advising on the organisation of the European Diploma of Anaesthesia and Intensive Care, as well as maintaining and improving the standard of the examination. Joining me now, the chair of the committee, is Dr. Basil Atsilianou. Basil, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
Can you briefly talk us through the development, expansion and success of the examination?
From its advent in 1984 with the first part 1 in Strasbourg, our exam grew from strength to strength. We had to obviously implement the structure of the exam. We had to align the exam to the ETR of the European board. In this moment we wanted to expand the exam to more countries in Europe and in the world. And obviously we needed more staff, more examiners, more hosts to get to the records of today.
So how many countries were involved at the beginning and where are you at now?
Well, we started with the first country and now we have 95 Part 1 centers in all continents. Only 5 European countries are not using our exams as mandatory exam for their national exam. We have more than 20 Part 2 exams. We have more than 2,200 participants for the home online assessment, and we are running now a specially designated course dedicated to the exams.
And what makes the EDIC so unique?
Well, it makes it unique in the sense that it is enormous as expansion in the world, has a very, very high number of participants. It's using now 12 languages, so we are a multilingual exam. Has a structure that combines anesthesia and intensive care in a way in which Part 1 is an MCQ exam and the Part 2 is an oral viva exam. And on top of that we have the online assessment, which is a formative tool in preparation for the exam.
What do the recent exam results show and what impact do you think it can have in the future?
Well, the impact of the exam is enormous in the sense that very many countries adopted part or the full exam, our exam, as part of the national structure. And as a result of that, every year, as a result of the EDAIC exam, more and more specialists are able to work with a high degree, with prestige, if you want, everywhere in Europe and not only.
For any future candidates that might be watching today, do you have any tips or advice for them?
For the Part 1 exam, it's very important that they test themselves with different MCQs. There are many books that they are on our website recommended in preparation for this exam. For the Part 2, it's also not only the knowledge but also the logical part of the answer, the fluency, the safety of their answer, and the fact that they have to now have an opinion and to defend that opinion in front of the examiners.
And looking ahead to the rest of 2023 and further ahead, what would you say are the priorities of the examinations committee?
The priorities are to continue the developments that we had after COVID, is to solidify the structure of the exam in a reproducible fashion, and to continue our expansion as we plan to have Indonesia, Paraguay and the last European countries joining us in 2024.
You excited for the future, Basil?
Very much.
Well, Basil, thank you so much for joining us and have a great Congress.
Thank you. Thank you.
As the exhibition hall fills with a multitude of delegates eager to network and explore groundbreaking technologies, let's discover what's new this year and what all the buzz is about. Well, that's a wrap for today, but please do make sure to come back tomorrow for our third and final show. Join us as we discuss research on improving pain management and perioperative opioid use after surgery. And remember, you can watch Euroanesthesia TV on screens at the Scottish Events Campus Centre, on the Euroanesthesia 2023 website, and of course on our social media. Thanks for watching and enjoy sunny Glasgow, and we'll see you tomorrow.